Hello guys, welcome once more to another video in our YouTube channel. So in today's video we are going to be looking at chemistry 2021 question 22. Now this question featured in the National Aptitude Examination into the first year of medical, pharmaceutical and odontostomatological training in Cameroon for the 2021 session. So without wasting much of your time, I'm just going to read the question and we dive straight away into the solution. So the question reads 6.4 grams of sulfur reacts with 4.1 gram of aluminium to produce aluminium sulfide. What is the mass of the sulfide obtained? We have 5 options. So when we look at such questions, we think about what we call the limiting reagent. Okay, because here we have two compounds or two substances, two reactants or reagents reacting together to produce a single compound. So for you to get the mass of that compound, you might be tempted to maybe use only the mass of sulfur or only the mass of aluminium, but definitely at the end of the day we are going to use the mass of either only sulfur or only aluminium, depending on which of them is a limiting reagent. So the objective is to get the limiting reagent, and that is a trap. If you fail to identify the limiting reagent, surely all the possible responses you are going to have will be part of the answers. We are going to see that as we proceed. So the first thing to do in such case is that we write down a chemical equation and we balance. So aluminium plus sulfur to give us aluminium sulfide. Aluminium has a valency of 3 while sulfur has a valency of 2. So they exchange and we have Al2S3. But this equation is just the chemical equation, but it is not balanced. So to have the balanced chemical equation, there are 2 atoms of aluminium on the right hand side, so we have to put 2 in front of aluminium on the left hand side so that the number of atoms are balanced. There are 3 atoms of sulfur on the right hand side. On the left hand side there is just 1, so we place 3 in front of sulfur to balance the number of sulfur atoms. So this is what we call a balanced chemical equation. Now we are going to now identify the limiting reagents. So the procedure we are going to follow is this. First of all, we are going to look for, in general, we look for the number of moles of the resulting compound, okay, using the individual reagents. If I find a number of moles of aluminium sulfide using the information on aluminium and the answer gives me a certain value, and I also find a number of moles of aluminium sulfide using the information on sulfur and the answer gives me a certain number of moles, I'm going to compare the total, the final number of moles that I'm going to have. The one that is less, the number of moles that is lesser will definitely be for the compound or for the reagent that is the limiting reagent. So I'm going to find the number of moles of aluminium sulfide with respect to aluminium and the number of moles of aluminium sulfide with respect to sulfur. Then I compare which one is larger, then I deduce the limiting reagent. So basically that is the concept of limiting reagent. So to get the number of moles of aluminium sulfide with respect to aluminium, I will try to first of all use my find the number of moles of aluminium, since I have the mass of aluminium and we know the molar mass of aluminium. Same thing happens for sulfur. So the moles of 6.4 grams of sulfur is the given mass on the molar mass. The given mass is 6.4 and the molar mass is 32 grams per mole. So basically this is going to approximate to 0.2. In fact, it's going to be equal to 0.2 moles. Now, what about the moles of 4.1 gram of aluminium? The given mass is 4.1 grams, while the molar mass is 27 grams per mole. So this approximates to 0.15185 mole. So this is the mass, this is the number of moles of 6.4 grams of sulfur, while this is the number of moles of 4.1 gram of aluminium. Now, let us get the number of moles of aluminium sulfide using aluminium. From this balanced chemical equation, we can realize that 2 moles of aluminium will produce 1 mole of aluminium sulfide. It therefore means that this 0.15185 moles of aluminium will produce what number of moles of aluminium sulfide. So if we use the proportion and we cross multiply, we have x times 2x equal to 0.1585 times 1, which will give us 0.15185. Now to get x, we divide both sides by 2 and we get that the number of moles of aluminium sulfide with respect to aluminium, that is when using 4.1 gram of aluminium, is 0.07593 moles approximately. Now still on our balanced chemical equation, we are now going to find the number of moles of aluminium sulfide using the sulfur itself. So 3 moles of sulfur in a balanced chemical equation produces 1 mole of aluminium sulfide. It therefore means that when 6.4 grams of sulfur reacts, that is 0.2 moles of sulfur is going to produce what number of moles of aluminium sulfide. Crossing multiply, we have 3y equal to 0.2, so y will give us 0.2 divided by 3, which is 0.066666, and so on and so forth. The 6 continues, that's why we find a plus. Now when we compare x and y, what is x? X is a number of moles of aluminium sulfide when we take into consideration 4.1 gram of aluminium. Now what is y? Y is a number of moles of aluminium sulfide produced when we take into consideration 6.4 grams of sulfur. So what is a limiting reagent? We have to compare the two final number of moles that we have, x and y. We clearly see that y is less than x, okay, because y is 0.066666 while x is 0.075 and so on. So y is less than x. It therefore means that sulfur is a limiting reagent, because of the definition that the limiting reagent is a reagent which is completely used up in a chemical reaction, or in other words, because y is less than x, that is the number of moles with respect to sulfur of aluminium sulfide is less than the number of moles with respect to aluminium of aluminium sulfide. So basically sulfur is a limiting reagent because it is completely used up firstly, okay, because it produces 0.06, so definitely it will be the first to be completely used up before aluminium. So since y is less than x, like we said, sulfur is a limiting reagent. So to now get the mass of the sulfite obtained, we just have to multiply, because we know that moles is equal to mass over molar mass. So the mass will be the moles times the molar mass. If you look for the molar mass of aluminium sulfide, we have to take 2 times the molar mass of aluminium plus 3 times the molar mass of sulfur. So 2 times 27 is 54, and then plus 3 times 32. When we add together, we get 150 grams per mole. So the mass of aluminium sulfide is the molar mass times the moles, which is 150 grams per mole times y, okay, which is 0.2 over 3 or 0.0666 and so on. So when you do that, we get an exact value of 10.00 grams. So option B is correct. Anyways, if you want to, like I said in the beginning, if we use somebody who just uses, okay, that sulfur, that maybe aluminium is a limiting reagent, or maybe just uses that this value. If you take this value and you multiply by 150, you are going to have 11.39 clearly. So you see all the answers were there. That is, if you calculate and you realize that sulfur is a limiting reagent, you have your answer. If you calculate, and if you don't calculate, meaning you just take into consideration that, okay, let me just use aluminium, you are going to have 11.39 as your answer, which is still part of the solution. So we have to be very keen and pay keen attention to such concepts. So if you enjoy the video, make sure you like the video, you comment in the comment section if you have another way of solving this question or on how to identify the limiting reagent. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.